In today's Rambam, in Hilchas Nezirus, Perik Zayin, Halacha Yud Gimel, is talking about here the din that a Nazir, of course, can be metame to a mas mitzvah. Says the Rambam, Nazir v'koyin shepagu beis mitzvah. Say Nazir, say Koyin are allowed to be metame to a mas mitzvah. They're both walking and they were pegeh. They came across a mas mitzvah. Yitman Nazir or Yitamin Nazir, Afal Pishu says Rayim or Rishenim maybe Korban Tuma. Val Yitami Koyin. The Nazir is metam, even though there's a tzad for carrot, there's a sheet in the Gemara for carrot, because the Nazir has to bring a korban, and he loses his first days, and a kohen doesn't have those. So there is a sheet in the Gemara that therefore the kohen should be metam. But the halacha, no, like the halacha, like the chachamim, that the Nazir should be metam and not the kohen. Why? Shezek kedushas kedushas shoah, because a Nazir is only a kedushas shoah. It's only a kedusha. It's a temporary kedusha. Vafilu hoya nazir elam, even if he's a nazir elam and nazir forever. The hakein kedushas kedushas elam, and the kohen, his kedusha is an everlasting kedusha. So, being that the kohen is a kedushas elam versus the nazir who's only a kedushas shah, so therefore the kohen is considered more chomor in his kedusha, a greater level of kedusha, and therefore the nazir should be matam and not the kohen. So here the obvious question is, in the words of the Rambam himself, the Rambam says, "Afilu hoya nazir elam," that even in the case where the nazir is a nazir elam, there's such a musig of a nazir is going to be a nazir forever. So the Rambam says that the nazir should be metamek because he is only kedushas shah, even if it's a nazir elam versus the kohen. If he's a nazir elam, why is it considered kedushas shah? Why is it not kedushas elam? It's a kasham pshat, but touching the words of the Rambam. So the Radvaz on the side brings from Teisvis, and the Teisvis on that Gemara in Nazir says, "Kivan the stam Nezirus have shleishim yem." In came kedushas and Nezirus ein ala ela. Stam Nezirus. A person says, "I'm a Nazir." The halacha is it's a Nazir shleishim yem. So somehow vaslichting them Teisvis. Yes, that stam Nezirus shleishim yem. So therefore, every Nezirus has a din of kedushas shah. Afalpi this nazir is not shleishim yem, and it wasn't a stam nazirus; it's a nazir elam. Yeah, in Tesis clearly it's not. Tesis is not masbir. What's the reason? Stam nazirus is shleishim yem, but he is a nazir. He is a nazir elam. So the man of community, the stam nazirus is shleishim yem. He's a nazir elam. Why is he kedushas shah? And in the Rambam, there's no mention of it. The Rambam doesn't mention anything about stam nazirus. He says you should know that all nazirus is a kedushas shah, even if he's a nazir elam. So the Lechem Mishnah Taka says, the Lechem Mishnah brings that the Radvaz says the Teisvis, but he says it doesn't bring the Radvaz. He brings the Teisvis, but he says that it's not mashma from the Rambam. The Rambam is not mashma like Teisvis. Rather, he says nira beifanacher. The kivon the kain kedushasim miyim shenelat. Oh, Taka Nazir might be a kedushas elam, but that kedushas elam started somewhere. There was one day that he became a Nazir forever. But a Kain is a Kain from birth. So that he says, that's like Shinyan the Rambam. The Rambam says that a Nazir, even if it's La'ilam, is still a Kedushas Shah, because it started at a certain point. It wasn't Miyim Shenelat versus a Kain. The Eid, She'in Le'heter. By a Nazir, there's no ability to be matir. You can't do, a Kain, there's no heter. You can't be matir neder. You can't become Iz Kain. A Nazir can be matir neder. There could be a Sheila L'chocham. So because of these two reasons, says the Lechem Mishnah, a Nazir, even if he's a Nazir Elam, is considered Kedushas Shah. Again, number one, because it started at a certain point. And number two, that it's Shayich, theoretically, there's a concept of Sha'ela, that he could be Sha'ela on his Nazir. So those are the two things that the Lechem Mishnah adds, and he says that that's more Mashma Pshat in Rambam. Yeah, remember, that there's a Radvaz, I read the Radvaz over here in Nezirus. This halacha is also in Hilchas Oval. Same halacha about a kohen being metama. The kohen can be metama to nas mitzvah, and there it talks about a kohen and a nazir, and it says the same. It says the same halacha. So there, the Radvaz tells sich on this that it says that a nazir is considered kedushas shah. Zokter vafilu mi beten ulaelam vafilu nazir mi beten. Even if you have a nazir that's the Nezirus is chalal from when he's from birth, so nevertheless, a kohen is higher. Because the Kain is Kedushas Elam Me'ilov, but the Nazir, the Kedusha is through a Kabbalah. Let's say there's such a matziv of a Nazir that's like a Nazir Mibeten. his father, Av Madir is Benazir, so the father was Madir. So that's Mamash and Nazir Elam. His whole life, from the day he's born till the day he dies, he's a Nazir. Says Radvaz, but even that Elam is a Kedushas Elam that came through a Kabbalah. Someone had to be Mekabel and to be that Nazir. Mashenkin Akayan, it's Me'ilov. He's automatically. So therefore, this is considered forever because it doesn't need to be made. Mashenkin and Nazir, the Kedusha has to be made. These are the Radvaz. So what do we have here? We have here four ideas, four Nekudas. We have the Nekuda of the Radvaz over here who brings a Taisvus. Now, why is a Nazir considered a Kedushas Shah? Because Stam Nezirus Leishem Yem. Yeah, of course, they're saying it's not Mashman the Rambam, and it's Sorachiyun. So what? If Stam Nezirus Leishem Yem. Well, the Pale, that's the first way, the way of Taisvus. And then we have the two ways of the Lechem Mishnah, and that is one, because even a Nazir Elam had to be Niskabel at some time. It didn't start by birth. And also, even a Nazir Elam, the Shayach HaTorah, Shayach She'elah. And then you have the word that the Radvaz was Mesiv in Hilchos Avol, that even if you have a Nazir, this Mishan Elad, but it's like the Kabbalah, there had to be a Kabbalah San Nezirus, it wasn't Nazir automatically. That's straight up. You look into Mishnayis, in Masech Nezirus, in the beginning of Perek Zayin. So the Tesis Yontav also talks about this. And the Tesis Yontav says the same thing like Lechem Mishnah, like the first answer to Lechem Mishnah, that a Nazir is a Nazir not from birth. So maybe it's not Elam. But then he says that Shali Beniha Oluf, my great son, my smart son, asked me, what about a Nazir that's Takami Betan? A Nazir Betan from his father was Madir ben Nezirus. So the Tesis Yontav said that even if father was Mazir, the Chiyuv doesn't start until he becomes a Bar Chinuch, when he can watch himself. That's his shita, that even a Nazir mi Betan, the Chiyuv is not Chal until after he's a Bar Chinuch, either a Gadol or a Bar Chinuch, it goes back and forth. That's his mahalach. In other words, if we talk about one big mahalach over here that's showing up, Sayin Lechem Mishnah, Sayin Radbaz and Hilchos Avol, and Sayin Tesis Yontav, one big mahalach is this concept that a kohen is from birth, so it's always. And the Nazir was niskabel at a certain point in time. Fratzich the Shaila, but what about if it's mi beten? So here we have mahalchim. We have the Radvaz. He said, if even though he's mi beten, but there needed to be a Kabbalah, it's not mi ilov. The Tesis Yontav says that even if it's mi beten, it still doesn't start mamash mi beten. It doesn't start from birth. It starts after a certain period of time. So for all of these reasons, the Nazir is different than the Kohen, and the Nazir is not called a Kedushas Elam, but rather a Kedushas Shor. Rabbi Kiva over there on the Mishnayis, he's been saying to an interesting Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi here in Nazir says a svara that l'chura, it's a very interesting thing. The Yerushalmi asks the kasha. Yerushalmi, mamash, this kasha that the Tesis Yontav and the Radvaz and the Lechem Mishnah are dealing with, Yerushalmi asks, says we're saying that a Nazir is a Kedushas Shor. What about if he diri aviv? What about his father made him a Nazir? So it's from birth. And the Yerushalmi says no, because the din of hidiri aviv is not mefurish bikra. In other words, a kohen is kaddish mi beta, and that's mefurish bikra. That's a din kahuna. Mashenkin, the din of by Nezirus, that hidiri aviv b'meila the Nezirus is chal mi beta or mileda. That's not mefurish bikra. You look in the side of the Yerushalmi, the Pnemesh, the Kovanedo. They say it's a halach l'mesh mesina. According to one sheet, that's Gora de Rabbanon. So it says Yerushalmi, since it's not mefurish bikra, that's why he's not like a kohen. That's what the Yerushalmi says. And interesting, nobody brought this Yerushalmi. Tesis Yontav, that's one day, if the Radvaz is another if. But the Yerushalmi itself, and it's the only marker we have in Gemara to answer this kash. The Yerushalmi says that a Nazir is considered Kedushas Shor, even though it's Yidiri Yoviv, but still a Slav Mefurish Bikra. The kind of Ben Sheil, what does Mefurish Bikra have to do with being called Kedushas Elam or Kedushas Shor? What's main taka there, Yerushalmi? What's the kesher? So it's not Mefurish Bikra, it's Halach L'Mesh Mesina. We're saying it's a lesser level of kedusha because it's not learned from a pasuk. So it's not less kedushas elam. It's a lesser level of kedusha, but it's kedushas elam. He's from his birth until he passes away. He's a nazir. It's not mefurish b'kra felt kedushas elam. What's main taka de Yerushalmi? L'chayet says one word can nefshetrachten azay. Perhaps the pshat in Yerushalmi is that the din Nezirus that the Torah is mefarish is a Nezirus of Azman, Mesuyim. Taisa says Stams Nezirus Leishim Yem. A person can add to that, make it 60 days, make it 100 days, make it 100 years. The Nezirus that the Torah tells us about is a Nezirus of Zman. Freshly the Shaila, a Nezir Elam, is it a different Geder or it's just a longer Zman? A person who's a Nazir Elam, you could look at it like it's a different Geder. There's a Nazir for Zman, and something that's not Zman, it's forever. Or no, there's Zman of 10 years, and there's Zman of 20 years, and there's Zman of a whole lifetime. But it's not a Geder's Ein Beis Zman. It's not Le'elam. It's a longer Zman. It's my whole life. So Ken Zayin has those licht in the Yerushalmi. If in the Torah Gufe, in the halachas of Nazir Volkishtanim, that there's different types of a Nazir. There's a Nazir Zman, and there's a Nazir Elam. He says there's a Nazir who decides to be a Nazir one day, and there's a Nazir whose father makes him to a Nazir, and therefore he's a Nazir his whole life. Then the Pshat is the Torah Melchitchila said in Nezirus, there's Nezirus Shah, there's Nezirus Elam. But yes, that in the Zakt Yerushalmi, yes, that I'm a foolish bikra. In other words, which Nazir did the Torah say is the Nazir or Nazir of Zman? They added an additional thing as a ken hamol zayin, ken gemol zayin, that the father should already begin the Nezirus for the child. But there's no second makir in Torah for Nezirus. And B'meila, the Geder of Nezirus is Nezirus of Azman. That's the Geder of Nezirus. This one is going to be a Nazir for his whole lifetime. Fine, so it's a longer Zman. Und das Guf is Zakt Yerushalmi. That hayes that in Torah is the shmefurish hazad din from Hiziri Aviv is b'meila kumteis that there's one Geder of Nezirus, and that's the Nezirus that the Torah is mefarish. And the Sofer of the Halach Leish Mesinai is that the Nezirus Zmani could be nimshach a whole life. That's not the pshat. You don't have to say, definitely don't have to say like the Tesis Yomtiv. It could be that when he's a cotton, it's not Chalalov. Maybe that's like the Eimik of the Vart of the Radvaz and Hilchas Oval, that even if you're Nazir Elam, you need a Kabbalah. The Eimik from them is that therefore it's still a Izmani, it's just going for a whole life. It's not like Huna, which is Etzemani in Ilami. Und sie kennen dann, es das so post Pshat in the Rambam. That the Rambam said that Shezeh Kedushas Kedushas Shah Vafilu Haya Nazir Elam. Period. The Geder of Nezirus is Kedushas Shah. That's the Nezirus that Torah talked about. Afilu Kedushas Elam. Afilu Haya Nazir Elam. Still, it's a Geder Zmani that for his life, his whole entire life, that's how much this man is mispashet, but it's still not a Geder Kedushas Elam like a Kain.